What's going on, y'all? Today we are talking about marriage and intimacy. Gotta check it out.
Welcome back to Worth the Work. I'm Mamia.
And I'm Emmanuel.
And if you're new to our channel, we talk about everything marriage, parenting, and family life.
All right, so glad you're with us today. And what we want to do today is just talk to you about marriage and intimacy. As we've been doing our series on marriage expectations, I think this is one of those topics that we love to talk about.
So when you say intimacy, you mean intimacy? Or,
Intimacy. And that, I think we should start there. I think when we hear the word intimacy, automatically physical intimacy comes to mind. But today we really want to talk about not just physical intimacy, but that emotional and intellectual intimacy that relationships really are founded on. And if that is not right, that physical intimacy is going to be off one way or another. So we're talking about the whole shebang today, not just intimacy. All right. So let's dive into it. So to start, I think it's clear that as we come into marriage with unrealistic expectations, the area of intimacy is clearly one of those areas that we just, I think, have it all wrong coming in. We get our ideas and sort of conceptions from TV, from entertainment, and even sometimes what we see in our homes can really give us the wrong picture of what intimacy should look like in marriage. So I think I'll start with you, Mommy.
No, I'm asking you. What did you expect about intimacy as it pertained to us, getting married?
Well, I would say that I didn't expect it to be hard. I didn't expect it to be where it would take a lot of work. I definitely thought it would be anytime, all the time.
So are you talking about sex?
Yeah, I think definitely for sex and physical intimacy, I definitely did not consider how much emotional intimacy plays a factor into physical intimacy, especially for women. And so that was a huge learning that I'm sure we'll touch on. What about you? What were some of your expectations?
I don't know. I guess as far as physical intimacy, what I think a lot of people expect in marriage, they expect a couple of different things. I think some people, they think that, okay, I have this, partner who I have available to give me pleasure, 7 days a week, and it's going to be like that all the time. We can have sex every day, all day if we want to, like rabbits. But I also think there's this expectation that once you get married, that's it. Like, I hear guys talking about, oh, bro, once you tied a knot, that's it. You ain't going to get none. And just, all those kind of things that you hear. And so, and it's funny because I think the average adult or married person has sex like once a week or something like that, which I think is a little bit. That's not that often. So I think there's those two different expectations, and it just depends on like what you're coming to the table with. What expectation you're coming to the table with? Are you thinking that I gotta brace myself because I'm not gonna get any anymore, or are you coming to the table with, man, we're gonna be doing it all the time? And so I think that what will be important for couples to understand is it may not be what you expect. And I think it's important to kind of put those expectations on the table, what you're hoping for it to be, what you're hoping for physical intimacy, how often you think you want to engage in that, regularly. It may or may not be realistic, but you got to hash that out. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. between both parties, and see what seems comfortable for one another, as far as frequency is concerned. But I think it goes more deeper into that as how you like it and when you like it, and just all those factors that go into play when we talk about physical intimacy. There just has to be communication about, your needs, what you're getting, what you're not getting, and which is so difficult for some people because some people don't want to talk about physical intimacy at all. So what do you do in that situation where you have a partner who is, maybe not comfortable talking about physical intimacy?
Now, when you say comfortable talking about, what do you mean in terms of what they like and how they like it, or
like just in general, like they're not comfortable talking about sex, because some people come from backgrounds where like it's a taboo subject.
But why do we need to talk about it? Let's just do it.
And that's could be an issue as well. Like one partner might feel like, oh, we don't need to talk about it.
What's there to talk about?
And that could be problematic.
Right.
If you are too afraid to talk about it, or too shy, or it's a taboo subject for you, or you just feel like there's no need to talk about it. We're just gonna do what we do. And
so you're saying the reality though is that you do need to talk about it.
That's the reality, and the reality is that you need to expect that your spouse may not want to talk about it. So you really have to extend a lot of patience, a lot of grace to that party who is not comfortable speaking about it, and try to bring them in, and try to help them to get more comfortable with that conversation. And I think it's also good if the two of you yourselves cannot, talk about it, that you bring a third party who is a professional counselor who can help you communicate those things. I mean, for us, thank God we didn't have that issue. I think we were both pretty comfortable speaking about sex to one another. So that would work well for us. But if you're not, I think I encourage, people to seek a counsel from somebody else to help you have that conversation, because you may not know what to talk about when it comes to that. But
and definitely, folks, some people's past experiences sort of have put them in a place where you do need, again, that outside person to really help moving past some of the things that are really a blockage and sort of barriers to being able to eventually have the level of intimacy that you desire to have with your spouse. So that's I think that's an important part.
Right. But the most important takeaway is, like, you have to have the conversation. You have to be able to say, listen, I'm not enjoying this. Or listen, I'm not getting enough of this. Or listen, you need to calm down. This is too much. I'm not a machine. And so
and that could be difficult, right? Either way, either on the receiving end or on the giving end. But that's the reality that has to have. You have to be able to have that conversation. I think it's really important.
Right. And then intimacy, is not only about physical intimacy, like you said, and there is the emotional side of intimacy. And I think that
so let me ask you, what on the emotional side, what do you think are some of the big sort of unrealistic expectations that folks have when it comes to emotional intimacy coming in?
Right. So I think a lot of people don't even consider that, when they hear intimacy, automatically people think of, physical intimacy. So I think people don't put enough thought into that part of a relationship. I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that maybe you guys will be best of friends, that conversations will be easy, and that you'll be able to talk about everything. But there's always, the issue of, do I really trust my partner enough to be fully transparent, right?
And vulnerable.
There's always that issue that can come up. And I think it's not always like that for everyone.
And I think definitely we take it for granted. I think to your point, we go in thinking that it'd be a given
Right.
that we're connected emotionally, that we're on the same page, and and therefore physical intimacy is going to flow from that. But it definitely is not a given.
Right.
I think that we take for granted the amount of work that it takes to maintain a high level of emotional and intellectual intimacy, because there are barriers that are going to be around, and you being intentional enough to work through them and to, like you said, be vulnerable, be transparent. I think, that when I think about that, really, even in order to get to physical intimacy, you can't have intimacy without transparency. Because there's a level of, again, nakedness that comes, and that's that word being used, in both senses of the word, where you're sort of unashamed with your partner.
Right.
You can be bare in terms of your thoughts and your feelings, and when that's not there, that is really cause for concern. And I think have an expectation to work through issues to really get to that level of intimacy.
Right. And I think that what's important to understand is when you decided to marry that person or be in relationship with that person, you are also committing to be dedicated to work through that difficult part of things and be patient with the person and to work through those barriers to intimacy and to build that trust, with one another in order to become comfortable being naked or transparent with one another. So I think that is very important to know and very important to understand that, if you're married to a spouse who is one who tends to keep things in or they won't open up, you've committed. If you love that person, you've committed to work to get through those things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does take a third party to have a breakthrough, or just being patient with the person and continuing to try to build that person's trust or to get past that wall that the other person has. I think the expectation is, because we're married now, I'm going to be free, I'm going to be open. But if the person is a closed person or somebody who is not, what's the word, like easy to talk to, or somebody who's not easy, who doesn't open up easy, that's not going to change just because you're married. So you have to be committed to the process of, understanding that person, learning how to communicate to that person. Just as it is with physical intimacy, you have to be committed to the process to learn the other person's style in the bedroom, as it is emotionally. Learning how they communicate, learning how they receive, communication. I think all of those are things that people tend to overlook when it comes to intimacy.
Yeah, and not to mention if there's, in cases where there are breaches of trust or a lack of trust, even from a spouse feeling like they're not supported, or they can't they can't share their hopes and dreams with the spouse to be able to, again, for that spouse to get behind them. So all those things, again, can be barriers that you have to be committed to work through, no matter which end you fall on. I think it's very important. And how would you describe our experience in terms of that emotional intimacy so far?
What do you mean, like how's it going? Or I think it's for us. It's been pretty good. I think we built up a pretty good foundation as far as communication is concerned. We built a really good foundation, so I think I'm pretty comfortable being transparent with you.
Very transparent, which I think that's something I really appreciate. That high level of transparency. Thoughts, feelings. Things that sometimes most people probably wouldn't share. Mommy usually shares in that. I think that always gives me, obviously, reason to trust her, and that allows me to connect with her that much more. So I think that's something I really appreciate, that level of transparency.
Yeah. Okay. What would you rate it? How would you?
Yeah, I think, to your point, that's foundation for us, being friends before we became lovers or spouses. We had a friendship, knowing each other for years before we got married, helped that solidify that relationship in a sense of being able to again be ourselves around each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has helped big time in continuing for us to build on. And so when there are issues, we can work through them with a level of trust and understanding that again helps us bring us back to, not that there aren't issues that we have to work through, but we always are able to come back to that level of closeness.
Right. And I think the key thing for us is like, I mean, we're committed to the process.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to be transparent. It's not always easy to communicate as much as I do, or sometimes you do. I think we're both committed to that process because we love each other, and we know that in order to have a successful relationship, we just have to work through those difficult conversations, or just have to be patient with one another, as we talked about in our other episode about communication. Me being the communicator and you not being the one who easily confronts things. We have to commit to understanding each other's styles, and I think that's just the key, to just commit to the process and be patient with one another.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, to sum it up, I think communication has been one of the biggest learnings for me in terms of being married, and realizing how much it affects, again, our intimacy, from emotional all the way down to physical intimacy. And so knowing that if this is not right in terms of how we're connecting here, it's not going to work all the way around. And so being intentional to make sure that I'm taking care of how much we're connecting emotionally. And I think as men, we can take that for granted, especially when it comes to the bedroom. We don't really consider how much, again, women need to feel the love and the sort of emotional connection, in that leading to, again, that level of physical connection that we would desire. Would you agree?
Yeah, you got it.
All right. So, again, we just wanted to have the conversation, but we encourage you to, again, have a conversation with your spouse or your potential spouse, whoever you might be dating, because we know that intimacy is really key in every relationship. So as you desire to be married, or as you desire to improve the intimacy in your marriage relationship, we encourage you to, again, talk about it, whether it's sex itself or how well you are connecting emotionally, whether you're not feeling supported, or you're the one who is not as vulnerable or transparent as you could be. Have a conversation of what might need to change in order to help sort of move you forward as a couple in that area, and you'll be amazed sort of what it would do for you.
Yeah. Yep. And I also encourage you to just commit to the process. We did have a great friendship prior to getting married. We knew each other for a long time. But if you didn't know each other for very long and you're still needing to build trust, commit to that process.
That's
know
right.
that it's going to take work. And that's why we believe it's worth the work, because when you commit to the process, you put the work in, are patient with one another, and just really go on that journey together, it's well worth it.
It's going to be worth it.
Yes, it's well worth it. And I just want to challenge you to stick it out and hang in there, and you'll see the benefits.
Listen, thanks for stopping by. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell to get sort of notified when we drop new videos, and please share.
Yes.
All right, and drop us a comment as well. We'd love to hear from you. All right, so